On today's episode of the McCann Dogs Podcast,
I don't like dogs coming into my dog's space. And of course, as they're walking by, they just let the dog stretch right into Ned's space to sniff. And I just kind of stuck my leg out just to block the dog. And I got this dirty look from the people. And I thought, like, I should be the one giving you the dirty look.
Right.
If I just stood up and walked into your space and put my nose next to your nose right now, like, what would you think?
Right.
And now, Instructor Shannon.
Welcome back to the McCann Dogs Podcast. It is season 5. My name is Instructor Shannon.
I'm Instructor Swanny. I'm introducing myself this podcast.
I thought you were going to say, I'm Instructor Shannon.
Who's the real instructor? Oh, we should do that. Yeah.
Who's the real Instructor Shannon? Or is it Honda?
Ooh.
Welcome back to the McCann Dogs Podcast. I can tell this is going to be a fun one already because we're all goofy, except for Honda. Honda's gone to sleep.
Yes.
Honda is our little mascot dog here for the McCann Dogs Podcast. So,
Yeah,
but I don't think he's going to have as much to say this episode.
No, he said he had a lot to say, and now he's just sort of sleeping.
Yeah. What's with that?
Sleeping.
Wake him up.
I don't know.
Wake him up.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. Let him have a rest. He'll enjoy a rest.
Yeah. Well,
All right.
he's 14, so he needs a lot of extra sleep.
You know what? Poking him wouldn't be very nice etiquette.
It wouldn't be. Ta-da! And that leads into
our topic today. So we are going to talk about proper etiquette in public spaces.
And you know what? We shouldn't have to talk about proper etiquette, but we do.
Shouldn't. Yeah, we do. We do a
Yes.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I often call it proper netiquette because my dog Ned
Only Shannon
and
thinks it's funny.
etiquette fit together so nicely.
Yes.
For netiquette.
Netiquette.
Those are his rules and the way he does things. Alrighty, so let's discuss proper etiquette and dog etiquette. And specifically what I mean is your dog a good ambassador for canines the world over?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I was a brand new human on the world and I was meeting a dog for the first time, would your dog make me love dogs? Would your dog make me dislike dogs? Or would your dog make me fear dogs even?
Mm-hmm.
What would my response be to your dog? Swanny, what do you think? If I was meeting Honda here, a little Ewok for the first time.
I think you would like dogs.
I
I
think-
think you would go,
I
I
think I
like
would
dogs.
too.
Yeah.
He's very sweet.
Mhm.
He's very demure, I
Right.
would say.
Mhm.
He is gentle. He likes to come over and give affection and ask for affection, but he does it nicely.
And
He's
if
lovely.
he could hear, he would sit when asked. He would lie down when asked. He would shake a paw when asked.
Yes.
Yes. So
He
he's
would.
he's good.
Good
He's
canine
good.
etiquette.
Yes.
Yes, I would love.
I
So-
clean up after him when he goes to the bathroom.
That is
Yeah.
very important. Very, very important. That is proper human etiquette to
Yes.
clean up after the dogs for sure. That's actually that was my closing remark. planned.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
we're done then.
The most
See
important.
everyone next week.
most important thing is pick up after your dog.
Right.
Yeah, now we can end the podcast.
Yes.
Alrighty, so we all have different rules. I mean, this is a given. You know, things that are important to me for my dog's training might not be important for you for your dog's training, and might not be important for the next person. But I think that there should be a general idea of what's important when your dog ends up involving other people or other dogs or situations. So that's what I wanted to talk about today was proper etiquette. And I thought about this topic because on Friday I had Ned into the vet for his annuals, his vaccinations and blood work, and all's good. His blood work came back great. His fecal came back great. And, you know, all is good.
All
in
is
the
great.
hood at this point. So knock on wood. Hopefully he continues to get good health report cards as time goes on. But it was a kind of an interesting vet visit. And I've actually moved recently. So it was a new vet clinic for me. So I was going into this new vet clinic and I didn't really know what the lay of the waiting room would be like or how busy it would be, et cetera. And as soon as I pulled into the parking lot, it's actually, the vet clinic is in a strip mall. So as soon as I pulled into the parking lot, there was a lot of traffic and there was a lot of cars parked and there was a lot going on. And I noticed a man with a pug who was probably about 4 storefronts down from the vet clinic. And I thought, I wonder if he's here for the vet clinic or is there another? And I kind of looked around to see if there was another pet friendly anything in there. And I thought, maybe he's just waiting for somebody in the vet clinic. But it became very obvious why he was 4 storefronts down when I got out of the car and I let Ned out of the car and the pug proceeded to scream at the top of his lungs. And of course, the poor man, I looked up because the noise was startling and I looked up And of course, the poor man had all the embarrassment that you can imagine he would have and said, oh, he's just so overly friendly with other dogs. And I just kind of nodded and smiled and continued to get Ned out of the car and keep an eye on him because I thought if he starts to approach and thinks that he wants to have our dogs interact, then I'm going to have to address that because I don't allow my dogs to interact with dogs that I don't know.
Especially at a vet clinic.
Absolutely.
Right. Your dog could be there because they're quite sick.
See, that seems like a really smart thing to me.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it kind of confuses me that, well, I'll continue with the story and then the confusion will be evident. But yeah, it makes so much sense to me that I would not want my dog, especially in a vet clinic, to be going nose to nose with other dogs because I don't know why they're there.
Exactly.
You know, they might have something like kennel cough or they might have something far worse.
Right. Yeah.
That is communicable. And I mean, hopefully the attendants would make sure that the dog was taken straight into the room, et cetera. There are precautions in place, of course. I'm not discounting that, but it's also the responsibility of the dog owners to keep their dogs with them and under control.
Yes.
So I commend this gentleman for having the wherewithal to say, okay, you know what? I'm not going to go into the waiting room and have my dog scream nonstop. I'm going to stay out here because I have a better chance of managing this situation. So good for him for that. Hopefully he can find some help for some training that will help him get through this this screaming scenario and get to a better place. But you know, that's
screaming pug.
The screaming pug, the art of the screaming pug. So then I went into the actual clinic itself and right away was met by another screaming dog. This one was a Frenchie, really cute little female
Oh, they
Frenchie.
are adorable.
They're so adorable,
Yes.
but same thing. And you know those noises they make, right? Something like that. Did that sound like a Frenchie?
It did, yes.
Frenchie impression. Yay. Let me know in the comments what you thought of my Frenchie impression. I'm usually terrible with accents or anything like that, but I think I've got the dog's voices down pat.
I don't think it was loud enough. I know you were being polite, but I think it was probably far louder.
I have a mic. I was worried about it being too
loud,
intrusive.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, so I walked in and then there's the Frenchie screaming and I thought, okay, I'm going to go over to this far side of the vet clinic waiting room and mind my P's and Q's with my dog and, you know, expect him to be a good canine ambassador because at this point, you know, he's well enough trained that neither of these things threw him for a loop. And both times he looked at me and said, okay, what's the scoop here, Mom? What are we up to? And I was able to give him direction from there and life was great. And then he laid down with me. Well, I didn't lay down, but he laid down. I sat in the chair. He laid down on the floor and, you know, we just basically hung out and waited for our appointment to come in. I did a couple of tricks with him just to keep him from being overly bored, but really I don't mind if he's bored for 10 minutes in a vet clinic waiting room. So we just hung out and I gave the Frenchie space. So we went in, we did our thing in the actual vet clinic room. Life was great, came back out again. And now the scenario had changed. There's a different dog in the clinic waiting room and the woman with the Frenchie is over with the Frenchie letting her dog say hello to this other dog. And as we come out of the door, I was sort of blocked by this scene that was happening. So I have a command with Ned where if he's on my left side, I can move him to my right side with a switch command. So I did that because it would give him more space away from this Frenchie that was now pulling in his direction and me more space to, you know, get him by safely. Not that I was worried that the Frenchie was going to hurt him, but I do not want Ned interacting with strange dogs in this setting. I don't ever let my dog interact with another dog unless they've been given express permission, which is me saying, okay, go play. And it's a very clear directive. And we've actually done an episode on this and I have a blog post on my rules for dog-to-dog play on the McCann Dogs website. You know, it's very clearly laid out. If you're curious about the rules that I have for play, you can certainly look up the trouble with dog-to-dog play is the title of the article, the blog article on our website, mccandogs.com. So if you're curious about that, or you can look back in the podcast episodes and find that episode as well. So I have very clear rules for making sure that it's going to be a good playmate for my dogs. And I'm not sending them off into a situation where they might not come back in the same shape that they went out in, either physically or mentally. So as I'm exiting the door, I said, switch. I tucked him into my right-hand side. And as I was doing that, I heard the woman say, oh, there's another dog you can say hello to. And I just said, I've gotten really good at this over the years, actually. I used to have a hard time saying no, but now it's a piece of cake. I just said, sorry, we don't say hello. And I kept walking. And there used to be times where I would think, oh, people are going to think I'm so rude and I'm not polite. And, you know, maybe I'm mean to my dogs. No, I don't think any of that anymore. Practice gets you over those thoughts. And again, I need to advocate for my dog, and I want my dog to have proper etiquette. And I also felt like I wanted to try to say in that moment, even though it wasn't my place, so I decided not to, because, you know, I'm not working, you're not paying me money for my opinion, so I'm just going to walk past and do my thing and then leave. But I really wanted to say, this is why my dog laid down politely in the vet clinic waiting room, and your dog was screaming and you could barely contain them, is because you're living by this dog's rules, and you're letting it drag you over and scream and exhibit all this unwanted behavior, and it gets its way.
Right. And then you're going to come to obedience classes and wonder why your dog does all these.
Absolutely.
It's because they've rehearsed it over and over and over again.
Exactly. Exactly. If you want to learn more about how to give your dogs the right messaging, check out that episode. It was last week's episode, and it was a really good one to help to sort of clarify what messages you're giving your dog and what messages you want to give your dog, and whether or not those two things conflict and might create a problem for you is the thing that is up in the air. So, it ended up in this scenario where I thought, it's unfortunate that both of those people have obviously allowed their dogs to want to go and play with other dogs or say hello to other dogs, and they've allowed bad behavior to lead them down that track.
Yes.
So here,
and I think too, you have to be so careful at a vet clinic.
Yes.
Like somebody could be euthanizing their cat. Someone could be euthanizing
that
their
actually
dog.
happened to me with a retractable leash, getting tied up by a Shih Tzu on a retractable leash in a vet clinic waiting room while I was euthanizing a cat, and it was all I could do not to burst into tears. It was awful.
Like
but
people,
you worked in a vet clinic.
Right, yes. And there was a lot of bad situations, and even which one time Atari had a urinary infection, and I was at an emergency clinic, because of course emergencies, things like that always happen on the weekends, of course. Yeah, dog rules. And a lady came in with a dog that I don't know why it was there, but it obviously didn't look like an emergency, because the dog's flying around and having a grand old time, and she was letting it, I could see, she was going to let the dog come right up into Atari's face. And I had to say, whoa, like, my dog is sick. Please respect her space. She's sick. This is a vet clinic.
Goodness.
And I thought, I can't believe I'm telling this lady, like, how would she feel at the hospital if she's sitting there with a bladder infection and I come bouncing up and, put my face in.
I'm thinking about the Mad TV
right,
guy.
yes. Yeah, put my face in her face, like people don't think. They just don't think.
Yeah, proper etiquette in a vet clinic waiting room for sure. Keep control of your dogs. If you do think, this looks like a scenario where I might let my dog say hello, which I would strongly recommend not, because if your dog says hello to every dog they see, they come to expect that.
Yes.
And that's why you get that bad behavior and that frustration and whatnot. So make sure that you have times in your life where you say to your dog, you know what, we're just going to keep walking past this dog. You don't get to greet this dog. You don't get to greet the dog in the vet clinic. You don't get to jump all over the person just because they're there, et cetera, et cetera. Make sure that they have a good balance in their life where they know that it's not always an option.
Right.
And then you'll have just by default, you'll end up with better obedience with your dogs without that frustration that sets in when they want something and you're not letting them have it, sort of thing, or you're trying to restrain them from having it. So the messages that they get are so very important.
Right. And please don't bring your dog to the vet on a flexi.
Oh gosh, good idea.
Bring your dog to on a proper 6-foot or 4-foot leash.
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
on a flexi.
Absolutely. And anytime you want to have an interaction with your dog and another dog, ask the owner first.
Right.
Don't ask the dog, do you want to go and say hello to that dog?
No.
Ask the owner.
Right.
Ask the owner first. Can my dog come and say hi to you? Oh, sorry, no, I don't let my dog say hello.
And then don't make the person feel bad.
Yeah.
Say, you know what? That's, Oh, I understand. Yeah. No, I just was checking. Like, don't make the person feel bad.
Yes,
respect
absolutely.
them.
Yeah, and I don't mind explaining at all. If you want to know, I'll be happy to explain why I don't let my dogs greet other dogs.
Right.
I don't mind talking at all. I don't mind making small talk. I'll have my dog sitting calmly at my side while I do.
Yeah,
and I'll be more than happy to tell you why I have the rules in place that I do. But it's the same with our kids. We don't expect them to socialize with every single child they meet. We don't expect us to socialize with every human. we meet.
No.
Oh, I'd be exhausted in
Yes.
5 minutes every day. If
every day we were expected to run up to everybody we saw at the mall. Hello, hello, hello.
my
Oh, another one. Hello, hello, hello.
Can you imagine? Every day, every minute is the sit and chat bench.
Yeah.
You just socialize nonstop. Oh my gosh. I would be exhausted. But. So we all have our own rules. You know, you might not mind if your dog's not walking in heel position. You might not mind if you have a small dog and you want them to jump up. You know, you might, I personally teach all my dogs to jump up on command so that I can teach them to stay off on command as well. And I have that good balance. I can control it. When I want my dogs to jump on me, when we're interacting and engaging, I can. And it's no big deal. So that's probably different. Somebody's listening right now and thinking, she's letting her dogs jump up on her? I would never let my dogs jump up on me. And that's okay. If you don't want your dogs to ever jump up on you, nothing wrong with that. You just need to be consistent in your rules with the dogs. But my point is that we're all a little bit different. We all have different desires. We all have different amounts of time to work with our dogs. We all have different knowledge, etc., to work with our dogs. But there should be a few very common things that we expect with all of our dogs. And one common thing that people, I don't even want to call it a mistake because it's not a mistake. It's making the wrong decision with foresight. What do you think I'm talking about?
I'm not sure.
I'm going to say taking your dog off leash when you don't have the control to take them off leash.
Yes.
So, and this happens a lot. You know, one of the biggest nightmare phrases to hear when you're out and about with your dogs and you're people like us who don't want other dogs in their dogs' faces is, don't worry, he's friendly.
Yes.
See?
Oh my goodness.
It definitely is not your right to let, and I say this with the kindest, in the kindest way I possibly can. It is not your right to let your dog invade another dog's space. It is not your right to let your dog invade another person's space. Did I say dog first or person?
You said dog. You said dog, yeah.
Just repeating myself over and over and over again to hopefully make the point at home.
Yes.
Your dog should be either on leash or under control at all times when they are off of your property and out of your immediate control.
Yes. Because they're harassing.
Yes.
They're harassing you. And imagine if a human came up and started harassing you. Yeah. Like you would say, this is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Why does it make it right when a dog is harassing me or harassing my dog?
Yeah. And it completely takes away the option of saying to the person, hey, can our dog say hello? Because usually in these scenarios, the person is saying, don't worry, he's friendly, because they can't call the dog back.
Yes.
And I've actually been in scenarios before where I have said, hi, can you call your dog, please? And the person has basically told me to shut up.
Oh.
So, I mean, I don't understand why. Like, I will very politely say to people, please call your dog. Yeah. I don't let my dog interact with other dogs. Yep. Can you please call your dog? And I think usually they get defensive because they can't.
They're embarrassed. Yes.
They can't.
And they cover it with that.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? If you're finding yourself in that position, then you're making the wrong judgment call by taking the leash off to begin with. And it doesn't matter if it's, if it's an area where you never see people or dogs usually. If you can't call your dog back and you can't stop them from interfering with another person and another dog, they just should not be off leash, period. Yes. And you know what? You can train them. That's the thing. Every dog is trainable. And you might be struggling with your training. You might be unsure about how to go about training. Check out our YouTube channel. Even if you can't afford a training program, we have 900 free videos. And I will tell you, at least 50 of them are on loose lead walking. And I would say a whole chunk of them are also on recall and creating verbal control. Like, there's a lot of really good free information out there if you can't afford a training program. A training program, of course, is going to guide you from start to finish. That's the benefit of a training program, but it's just not a good excuse if you can't afford training. You really need to help your dog understand how to have manners, how to have proper etiquette, and how to interact with people and things in our human world. So that they can have good etiquette.
Yes. So it's just a few people will ruin it for everyone. Because most people are good. Most people are good and we follow the rules and we're mindful of our dogs. But there's that one or two. And those one or two people are what they have to create leash, like dog laws for, basically.
Yeah.
And I see there's a meme that goes around sometimes, and it shows a Newfoundland dog, I think, jumping out of a helicopter to rescue someone who's drowning in the water.
Oh my goodness.
And it says that, when, I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but it's basically like, I'm not allowed on the beach, I'm not allowed here, I'm not allowed there, but but I am allowed to rescue or something like that.
When you get yourself into
right,
trouble.
when you
I
get
got goosebumps.
right, yes,
Yeah.
And but I often look at that and go, well, we would allow dogs in areas if people were responsible about them.
Yeah,
and that's why.
In North America is a little bit different. There are other places in the world, places in Europe where dogs are welcome everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They're on the subway all the time. Like there's different ways of living for people, and lots of places have big transit systems, but not necessarily the roadways for cars, etc. So lots of dogs are out and about on subways, and they're out and about in restaurants and on patios. And in a lot of these cases in Europe, the dogs are still intact as well.
Right,
so you're also dealing with that. Whereas in North America, we tend to spay and neuter so that we can have an easier time. And then in addition to that, we let our dogs socialize with every single dog.
Yes.
So going and just laying calmly at a patio while your people have a coffee is not an option if there's another dog anywhere in the vicinity, which is a shame because now we either avoid that scenario or we leave our dogs home when we go and have our coffee on the patio. And wouldn't it be nice if we could bring them with us?
Yes.
Wouldn't it be nice for them to be included in every part of our world?
Right.
But if they're unruly and they don't have good etiquette, then
Right.
that's simply not an option.
Yes. Well, when I've been in New York City and I've been walking through Central Park, I've been amazed at how well behaved a lot of the dogs are. And I thought, there's no way the dogs of Hamilton would behave this well. But in New York City, there's no other choice. That's there's not the big wide areas like we have.
Yeah.
And the dogs have to behave, and they're taught to behave very quickly on leash.
It's funny. It's very similar if you're walking in Toronto streets.
Right, yeah.
I'm always in awe that there's so many people, and a lot of people will be walking dogs, and the dogs are they're doing great because they're used to it.
Right, yes.
They
Kudos
pass.
to the big city people.
Exactly.
Yes, they've done a great job, yeah. But I'm sure there's just as many that we aren't seeing.
Yes,
that are
probably so.
confined to apartments or confined to backyards because the people can't control them.
Well, and that's exactly the point we're trying to make today. That's a brilliant point. The dogs that don't have good etiquette are the ones that end up being stuck at home for all the adventures. But if you have a dog that, if you're walking down the Toronto street and you want to let your dog say hello to every single dog you see, you're never going to get anywhere.
Right, yeah.
It's going to take you 10 minutes just to walk one block. And if you actually have a destination in mind, that's going to be a problem.
Right.
So the dogs get used to ignoring other dogs, or they get used to saying hello to every single dog. And I mean, the choice is yours.
Right.
You can also have a balance where you teach your dog, you know what, it's not an option for you unless I give you permission to go and check out that other dog. So assume you're going to ignore it unless I say, okay, go say hello or go play or whatever the case may be. So
Honda, do you have a story that you want to tell?
Honda would like to talk about what good etiquette he has.
Right. Have you had dogs come and pester you? You have, haven't you?
Oh my goodness.
You have had dogs pester you.
Did we introduce Honda this episode?
I can't remember.
I can't remember either. Well, if we didn't, he's worthy of another introduction.
Yes.
Honda is a 14-year-old Chinese crested powder puff that I call Ewok.
Yes. Yes.
And he's our mascot here now on the podcast. I've decided now he's the mascot.
He's the mascot.
Yeah. We're going to have to work him into the mic or something like that on the logo.
And he's deaf, so I can't I can't just ask him to do things. He needs hand signals, but his eyesight's not that great either.
Oh,
poor old guy. Yeah,
but he has lovely etiquette, which means that he can come and hang out with us in the podcast studio while we podcast.
Right. Yes, I don't have to worry about Honda chewing on the cords. Exactly. He's not peeing on the floor. He's not, some puppies would be eating our foam thing here. So he's being very good. And he can jump off the couch and wander because I know he's not getting into any mischief.
Yes, absolutely.
But you probably noticed,
good shake, buddy.
I do keep an eye on him because that's the dog trainer in me. It's like, watch my dog. Dog trainer in me watches the dog.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Hi, buddy. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so
another I want to mention too.
Yeah.
I have worked part-time as a scheduler at a senior citizens home at a long-term care facility.
Okay.
And I was shocked the people, we allowed dogs to come in, of course, to visit loved ones and cats as well. But I was shocked at the people who'd come in with their dog on a 16-foot flexi and just let the dog fly out on the flexi. And the dog would be like accosting like elderly people and they'd be smiling, like I think thinking they're doing, Honda, stop, thinking they're doing a good thing by bringing their dog to visit people. But the dog was a menace. And finally, we had to make a rule that people had to keep a dog on a 6-foot leash because we had so many people on flexis with their dogs in long-term care. And it was, and a lot of the elderly people are frightened of dogs.
Yeah, understandably so.
Yes.
So we've actually done an episode on retractable leashes and their use and when it is acceptable to use a retractable leash and when it is not. And any scenario where you are in a busy place, a retractable leash is not a good option.
Not good.
Go with a solid state 6-foot leash. It will give you the ability to have good control with your dog. Flat buckle collar, 6-foot leash. You are set to go. A little bit of training under the dog's belt and you are golden.
Yes. So. When I worked at the emergency vet clinic too, we saw dogs who were hit on the road and they were wearing a flexi because the dog has full flexi and dogs are dogs and suddenly they'll just run out on the road. And, so the person had the dog on leash, but the dog just ranged onto the road suddenly and just horrible situations. So we need to have forethought and etiquette and common sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness, that's heartbreaking. I can't even imagine that. So if you were to sum up what proper etiquette looks like with dogs, what are some of the things that you would throw out there?
A dog that's under control, that's not pestering people, that's not pestering other dogs.
Perfect.
That's not infringing on other people's enjoyment of an area.
Love it. So public spaces are public spaces. And I numerous times I've been in public spaces with my dogs and I typically will, keep off to the side. One time I was sitting on a rock. I can remember, like, this is just as an example, one of the stories. I was sitting on a rock at LaSalle Park, which is waterfront park. I was waiting for my partner. We were going out for a sail and I just had Ned up on the rock beside me and he was actually laying down and I was checking something on my phone. And of course I saw somebody coming up the path out of the corner of my eye with a big sort of Bernese Mountain Dog type of dog. And right away I reminded Ned to lie down because he was chilling out beside me. And I kept an eye on the people just because, these are my rules. I don't like dogs coming into my dog's space. And of course, as they're walking by, they just let the dog stretch right into Ned's space to sniff. And I just kind of stuck my leg out just to block the dog a little bit. And of course, I got a dirty look. I did not kick the dog at all. I wouldn't do that. If it was full on attacking or something like that. But I just basically just used my leg as a block.
Shield.
And I got this dirty look from the people. And I thought, like, I should be the one giving you the dirty look. Like, if I just stood up and walked into your space and put my nose next to your nose right now, like, what would you think? Would you go,
I wish we could do that.
Yeah. Or would you be giving me a dirty look for that too? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they would. And then there would be no win for me.
Right. Yes.
Get a dirty look regardless.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, take a moment. Ask the person if you want your dogs to say hello. Both people will be in agreement, and it won't really cost you anything to say, "Hey, can my dog say hello?" I'm sure we're preaching to the choir here because the people who are listening to us
have good etiquette.
Are people who want to know all the tips and tricks and want to have good dogs and whatnot. So I'm sure that we're preaching to the choir, but it is so lovely to get these thoughts out.
Yes,
and
it is. It is. It's like,
and to hope that we're affecting some sort of change.
I know you were going to end up with cleaning up after your dog. Yeah. I have a tip.
Okay.
Always bring 2 or 3 or even 4 bags. And I didn't the other day. And Honda went to the bathroom and I picked it up. And then I happened upon a garbage can on my walk. And it's like, perfect. And I put it in the city garbage can.
Everything's coming up, Swanny.
Right. And then all of a sudden, a block later, he stops and plop. And I'm like, I don't have another bag. So I looked. One of the good things with Honda is he's little. So if I can find like a big leaf, I can sometimes pick it up in a big leaf. But there was nothing around and it's fall. God. So I just said to the general area, I will be back to pick this up. I'm coming back. And then we scurried home. I put Honda in the house. I got a bag. Came running back. I'm back. I picked it up. I don't know if anyone saw. I'm sure my mom always told me somebody sees. No matter what you do, somebody sees.
Live your life like there's always a
someone
video
watching.
camera on
Yes.
you.
So I picked it up and brought it back. But yes, I did. I made the major announcement. I am coming back to get this.
To the trees.
Right. And then
to the trees with no leaves on them anymore.
Right. Yes. And then I thought, oh, Christine, you always have 2 or 3 bags. What happened to you? Christine.
Yeah. I always have a roll.
Right.
Always. Always. Hi, buddy. It's, you know what? Ned is a double pooper.
Is he?
Yeah. Always.
Double pooper.
Always double poop. So
Right.
I always make sure I have at least 2.
Right. And then you can offer one to a friend when they need it too.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
I've offered people bags.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you need a bag?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Most
Oh my
people are
gosh.
good. Most
Yeah.
people have them now. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Most people are good about picking up, but
I
definitely.
Yeah, I
proper
do.
etiquette.
Sometimes in the city, I see people and they're walking along and their dog stops and they just pretend they don't see it. Oh, no, I'm looking at my phone. I thought, your dog's going. And then off they go. And it's like, come on. Like,
Oh my gosh. Clean up after your dog.
Right. Yes.
You can yell that from the window.
Right.
And then hide quickly. Perfect. So yeah, I would say my idea of proper etiquette is that they can exist well socialized in a space with other dogs and other people without needing to interact.
Right.
We can pass by dogs on the street
Right.
without my dog making noise, craning towards the dog. You know,
Right.
I should be able to give my dog a very soft leave it. And I expect my dog to go, yep, no problem, Mom. Actually, I expect that my dog is going to ignore the other dog without any command whatsoever because I've taught my dogs that by default, that's the expectation. It's only if I say, okay, go play, that they actually
Right.
get to interact ever. So they wait for permission in that respect. And I really don't have to tell them anything, but teach them a leave it command and then use that as you're passing other dogs.
Right.
You know, tell them leave it. Don't let them say hello to every single dog because
Right.
it will make your life miserable down the
Yes.
road. I can promise you that, especially when it comes to a situation where you don't want your dog to say hello to that other dog.
Right.
You know, maybe that other dog is not giving you friendly vibes or maybe I think he's scratching on the bottom of my leg
He is.
here.
Yes.
What a
Yes.
cutie. You know, it's so important.
Right. Yes.
So important.
Yes. And even
So-
I love dogs.
Yeah.
Not too long ago, I was walking and there was a Newfoundland coming up and it looked like it had been in the water. So it looked wet and it looked drooly. And I thought, you know what? I know you weren't with me that day. I know I went out without you. You didn't get to see the Newfoundland.
I'm a Newfoundland.
And under normal circumstances, I would have been delighted to pat that Newfoundland, but I think I was dressed nice and I was like, I don't. And I
Yeah.
could see the person was letting the dog pull towards me. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't but luckily I was able to skirt around it and get away. But I thought, you know what? I love dogs, but I don't love your dog right now in his
Yeah.
state. You know
Yeah.
what? When he's nice and dry, I'll pat him, but
Perfect.
not right now.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. You might love your dog, but not everyone does.
Absolutely. And I think that that's an important piece of etiquette. I almost said netiquette. I think that's an important piece of etiquette for our dogs to understand as well, is that not every human wants to say hello to them, and they should be able to pass by dogs without throwing a fit. And they should also be able to pass by humans without getting upset that they're
Right.
not getting to go and say hello to those humans. And like you said, not everybody likes dogs. We don't understand that. I mean, I totally don't understand how anybody could not like dogs, but it's the way it is.
Some people are very frightened.
Yeah,
Yes.
I also don't like liver. I don't like green pea soup. And lots of people love it.
I often have liver and green pea soup approach me on walks too.
I have a pea pod costume. Remember that? So,
yes, you do have a pea pod
quick
costume.
story. Swanny knows this story, but quick story. Instructor Carol teaches all sorts of rally classes at McCann's, and I love rally, so I often take her classes. They're so fun, and she often will have some sort of a theme component for graduation
Right.
night. So because I have all these cute nicknames for Ned, like Netiquette, I also I call him Vegetable Nedley often. Instead of Vegetable Medley. And so we were Vegetable Nedley, rather, for our graduation rally class. And I dressed up in a pea costume, and then I got him a little carrot costume. So we were Vegetable Nedley.
That was funny. That
was funny.
funny.
We won a trophy for that, actually.
Every time
Some
I see
serious bragging rights.
Every time I'm at the grocery store too, and when I go past the canned vegetables, I always see vegetable medley, and I always think of you guys.
Think about vegetable medley.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, we had a lot of fun. So good etiquette for passing humans, good etiquette for passing dogs, and then I would say greeting manners as well.
Right.
Because even the people that love dogs, when they say, "Oh, can I pet your dog?" if they have a 70-pound golden retriever that's wet and muddy jumping on them, they're probably not going to love that very much.
Yes.
So dogs should be able to greet politely, and that is all about training. You know, it's not natural for them to greet politely. They're going to be excited. They're going to be bouncing. So we need to intervene with some training and teach them what to do.
Right.
And I mean, that's what training is all about, is helping them understand coping skills for our human world, because essentially what we're doing is we're overriding their natural inclinations and instincts. So we need them to have skills to fall back on if we're asking them to ignore what they actually want to do. So training is so worthwhile, and it will get you the proper etiquette or the proper netiquette, depending on which way you're looking at it. And of course, the last thing on the list, pick up after your dog.
Pick up after dog. But I wanted to say one thing.
Okay.
Bit of a controversial thing.
Okay.
If your dog is not truly a well-trained, certified support dog in some way, don't bring it places where it wrecks it for other people.
Yes.
I saw a lady recently, and the dog had like a little support harness on, one that you could buy on Amazon. And that dog was not trained, and it was in a store, and it was all over the place. And I thought, if someone legitimately came into the store, say with a guide dog for the blind.
And it happens.
Yeah,
it does happen.
That dog would have dragged that woman and interfered with the guide dog for the blind. Yeah. And so don't think it's cute to order something from Amazon and bring an untrained dog into a store, because that's ruining it for the true people that need those dogs.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And that is unfortunately, I feel like, I don't know if it's me being absent from social media, so I haven't heard about it as much lately, because I'm, got tired of social media really, or if it's just not happening as much lately. I'm not sure which.
I think they've cracked down on it a bit. Okay. I think dogs need actual credentials attached to their harness, so someone in the store could check, or in a restaurant could check to make sure these are credentials. Yeah. But often, if it's teenagers working in a store, we can't expect teenagers to enforce rules against adults either. Like, absolutely. That's not fair to teenagers.
Well, and a lot of the times it ends up being a very combative situation, where, if the person is doing that to begin with, there's got to be some sort of an entitlement there that makes them think that that's okay.
Right. Yes.
When they don't have the proper situation set up. So what is happening there that allows that situation to be, and is the person who is charged with saying, hey, you know what, you shouldn't be in here with this dog, are they going to be able to take on that potential conflict with the person? With the person,
yes.
Yeah, yes. I agree. I'm glad you brought that up. Controversial or not, I think it's really important that we respect the rights of all people. Right. And when there is a real need there, those dogs need to be safe, and they need to be able to do their job and not be interfered with. And actually, that's another good etiquette point. Don't interfere with a dog unless you know that you have permission to say hello, and especially if they're in a vest and there's some sort of, even in those situations when they're in a vest, just ignore the dog. Right. Even asking the person puts the person in a position where they do have to say, no, I'm sorry, the dog is working right now. You can't say hello. This is not a pet dog. This is a very different scenario, and I rely on this dog to get me through my days. So, a lot of time and effort, a lot of money, a lot of everything goes into those dogs to make them
and they can
perform.
They can be ruined very quickly.
Yes.
And it's a shame that, you put years of training into a dog only to have it ruined by one bad incident. Yeah. So yes.
Yeah. Well, on that note,
pick
up after your dogs, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the McCann Dogs podcast. It's been a pleasure, and we will see you again next time. Until then, happy training.
Happy training.
The McCann Dogs podcast is brought to you by McCann Professional Dog Trainers. We help dog owners to have a well-behaved, four-legged family member. Please give us a call at 905-659-1888 or visit us at mccanndogs.com. Happy training!